Hi, my name is Tusita. Welcome to the GCE A-Level Biology class. The GCE A-Level, it's Sri Lanka. So I felt that there are not much English medium biology online videos. So I thought uploading some of the revision and paper class, or maybe sometimes the lessons, might be very helpful for the students because it's lacking some resources for the student to access in the online videos, especially the online videos and online tutorials. Right now, what I try to do, I try to discuss this paper. So this paper, the first question of this paper is this one. Just leave it like this. Okay, right, it's coming now. Well, which of the following statement is not included in the cell theory? Right, so we learn the cell theory. What is cell theory? So I make it very shortly. The most important points of the cell theory. In 1838, and the scientist called Schleiden, he described all plants cells. All plants are made up of cells. That's it. All plants made up of cells. In 1839, Schwann, so he described all animals made up of cells. And a bit later, around 1958 around, Rudolf Virchow. So Rudolf Virchow mentioned the cell is coming from pre-existing cell. Let's say these red color cells. So these cells are coming from pre-existing cells. So we have a number 1 finding, number 2 finding, number 3 finding. Schleiden, Schwann and Virchow, Rudolf Virchow. So they all describe these important points of the cell. After that, there are few points we can highlight. Cell is basic, structural and functional unit. So cell is the structural and functional unit of organisms. So all organisms are made up of cells. Cell or cells. For example, bacteria, one cells, but other eukaryotes, we have many cells. And the cell is coming from pre-existing cell. So cell is coming from pre-existing cells. So now all organisms are composed of one or more cells, correct? The basic structural unit of organism is cells. Yeah, basic structural unit is cell. The cell is basic functional unit of organism, basic functional unit. All cells arise from pre-existing cell, yes. All cells are microscopic. So this is not described in the cell theory. So this is an incorrect answer. Next one. Which of the following statement is incorrect regarding collenchyma cells? Right, just to come to that one, the plants, basically we have 3 different kind of tissues. That's dermal tissues, the ground tissue, and vascular tissue. For example, like this, that's outer layer I can call a dermal tissue, and These are basically the vascular tissues. These are vascular tissues, xylem and phloem, and rest of the middle here, the ground tissue. So all of them are made basically three different kind of cells. They are parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So the question is based on the collenchymal cells. So what are these cells? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So parenchymal cells can be seen in many places in the plant. For example, the palisade mesophyll cell as a nucleus, as a vacuole, and as a chloroplast and other structure. So collenchymal cells we can see like this. And collenchymal cells again we have this structure. So that's a cell wall, but cell wall you can see is not equal. Cell wall is unevenly thick here in this part. So both cells are live and they basically support and structural, like a functional, mostly functional support and storage like functions they are doing. And sclerenchymal cells have a secondary cell wall. So basically this is a primary cell wall, right? This is primary cell wall, and they have it's a dead cell, and they have a secondary cell wall which is lignified. That's a dead cell. So that's a basic difference of the parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So they are living at maturity. Yes, they are living at maturity. They have primary cell walls only. Yes, they have a primary cell wall only. They are capable of further cell division. Now, collenchyma cells, once they come into a differentiated stage, provide this function, so they can't divide. So that answer is incorrect. One is they are capable of further cell division. So the fourth one, they are found in both primary and secondary plant bodies. Right, the primary and secondary. I just only focus now in the just to learn the what is primary. That's a primary stem, and the secondary one we have this vascular cambium. So vascular cambium differentiate into a secondary xylem and secondary phloem, and then here cork cambium. So that's a primary, that's a secondary. So primary one, we can see only the xylem and phloem and in between cambium, and here it's a large growth of the stem due to expansion of this the vascular cambium into a secondary and primary and secondary xylem and secondary phloem, and also the cork cambium. They're going to make the thickening of the plant, and the stem is start to grow on more the lateral direction. So that's basically grow on vertical directions. That's a maybe lateral direction of growth of the plant. That's a secondary. So collenchymal cells, we can see this stage and also this stage. Okay, these have unevenly thickness cell wall. Yes, collenchymal cells, they have a very unevenly thick like this, different thickness of the cell wall. Okay, the answer is they are capable of further cell division because it's the incorrect answer. Right, we go to the next question. There's a picture, you have to identify this picture. That's not very clear. So we try a little bit to zoom it. Yeah, like this. So I shall draw it here. So it's like this, maybe like this. And like this. So like this. And maybe something like this. Okay, let's see choices given here. Golgi complex, cytoskeleton, mitochondria, lysosome and nucleus. So we start from the fifth one. So nucleus is like this. They have two membranes. And maybe nucleus here, that's a chromatin. That's the nucleus. Lysosome are very small like this. Could be a, let's say, 0.5 micrometer diameter. Single cell membrane full of enzymes. So, you know, the cell digestion and many functions. Mitochondria has a cigar shape like this and thrown into fold called cristae with two membranes. Basically, it's like a 1 to 5 micrometer. So it's like a, let's say like a 5 to 10 micrometer and 1 micrometer this side. And next one is a cytoskeleton. Okay, cytoskeleton is the whole architecture of the cells made by the microtubule, intermediate filaments, and the actin filaments. Actin, intermediate, and microtubules, they are like a protein spindle, like this kind of things. So they make the inside whole structure cytoskeleton. So this is the Golgi. Because Golgi looks like this, they have a sac like this, and these sacs are flattened sacs. It's a slightly enlarged here, and they have a vesicles here. So that's the Golgi complex. We move on to the next question. Which of the following compound is most abundant in living matter? Correct? So I'm going to revise you the living matter. So living matter. So living matter is made up of elements. As you know, the 12 elements, macro elements in human, and 9 elements in plants, and that is 0.01. More than that is a macro element. So less than 0.01 is a trace element. That's a trace element. And this element contribute to make the macromolecules. That's a carbohydrate, lipid, protein, nucleic acid. Okay, these are the all here carbohydrate, carb, and proteins, nucleic acid. We can also take lipid. So water we can't take as a macromolecule. Like this. That's basically the composition of how it's made up of. Now we're going to look detail into this one. That is that one. So let's say carbohydrate, lipid, proteins, nucleic acid, water. So what is 70%? Rest 30% is this one. So it's already clear the answer. The water is 70% made out of the living organism. So abundant one is the water. So out of that, protein is next in this category. Protein is number 1, nucleic acid is number 2, lipid is number 3, carbohydrate is number 4. We move into the next question. Right. Which of the following biological conversions taking place in the cell yield the highest amount of energy in the form of ATP? So we have seen a glucose molecule enter into the oxidation. Glycolysis is the first step. So glycolysis net ATP production is 2 ATP. Then they make pyruvate. So pyruvate depend on the oxygen availability. It can go to anaerobic to make lactate, or if they have no oxygen. So if they have oxygen, they going to the link reaction and then Krebs cycle. So after that, the reducing equivalent, for example NADH and FADH2, this reducing equivalent made during the whole process glycolysis to Krebs cycle enter into electron transport chain. So this is the process, and then after that, so they can produce 36 to 38 ATP. That's 36 to 38 is quite old fashioned, but latest one we now come into conclusion it's a 32 range. That's the new. So practically the net production is 32 in the new system, but the old system practically that's a 36 to 38 ATP produced. So that's overall how the ATP production in the cells. So highest production, glucose to pyruvate acid. Glucose to pyruvate acid, you see, is not much, 2. Glucose to lactic acid, anaerobic respiration is still 2. Glucose to carbon dioxide and water. That means complete breakdown of glucose, respiration, that's we write. Glucose, carbon dioxide, water and energy. That is the highest energy. That's the whole process to the end. Could be 36 to 38. So glucose to ethyl alcohol, that's in yeast and some microorganism. Pyruvate is going anaerobic respiration to make the alcohol and carbon dioxide. That's also 2 ATP produced. The fifth one, carbon dioxide into glucose. So carbon dioxide plus water give glucose. And that is a photosynthesis reactions. So photosynthesis reaction, that's not given highest energy of the glucose. It make light energy into ATP. So it's not the highest amount of energy produced. So that answer for this one, glucose into carbon dioxide and water.